Okay, we'll move on to the next session, the next panel discussion, which is on the topic office real estate at Cusp, hybrid versus back to work. And let me invite the moderator for this session, Ramita, Arora, Managing Director, Cushman and Wakefield, Bengaluru. And introducing our speakers in alphabetical order, I would like to welcome Juggy Malhotra, CEO, Prestige Office Ventures. Juggy Marwaha leads the growth and development of Prestige Group's office planning execution, business development, design and development, planning execution, business development, leasing and sales of the group's portfolio. He has over 27 years of cumulative work experience. Previously, Juggy held senior leadership positions at JLL India, WeWork, Taj Group, RMZ Corp, and CB Richard Ellis in Dallas. Can we give it out for Juggy Marwaha, please? And keep your hands up in the air. Let's give it out for Mehrotra, the founder and managing director, 315 Work Avenue. Manas is a serial entrepreneur and one of the leading voices in the new generation co-working space providers in India, with the proven ability to extract the core issues and challenges within the organization. His strength lies in his ability to combine the necessary elements to help the business increase and maintain a competitive advantage. Let's give it out for the gentleman out here, please. That's Manas Mehrotra for you. Welcome. Next we have Pravin, Bacchav, Country Head, CRE India Operations, Stallion, Universal, established in 2020. Jeete raho. Yeah. Established in 2020, Stallion Universal is a sister company of Stallion Global UK Private Limited, an occupier-focused workplace solutions firm that specializes in commercial, industrial, retail, hospitality, and healthcare. Pravin, a civil engineer, is the country head CRE operations of the company and a visionary of the professional growth in the real estate space. Let's also give it out for Ravi, Ahuja, COO Commercial Brigade Group. Ravi leads sales, marketing, strategic planning, and is responsible for driving the growth and profitability in asset management revenues and operations of the company's commercial office business. He comes with over 25 years of real estate experience and has held strategic and general management roles in various leadership capacities. Let's give it out for Ravi Ahuja. Welcome. Yeah, come on, let's give it out. Let's give it out for Ravindra Pai, MD, Century Real Estate Holdings Private Limited. Ravindra oversees all activities of the company, from land sourcing and project conceptualization to execution and delivery. More than 6 million worth of construction, including residential, plotted developments and commercial, have been undertaken under his leadership. Thank you for joining us, Ravindra. We welcome you. And last on the list, but only in the alphabetical order, put your hands up in the air for Vivek K. Chandy, Joint Managing Partner, J. Sagar Associates. Vivek has over 30 years of experience in areas of private equity, mergers and acquisitions, corporate commercial work, and real estate advisory in India. Vivek is also qualified to advise on international commercial arbitrations and is a member of the Chartered Institution of Arbiters. Let's give it out for Vivek K. Chandy. And I would now request our moderator to kindly take it forward, please. Yeah, I've kept you waiting, but welcome. Can we give it out for her, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a very power-packed panel right with me, and you've heard the introductions. So a great panel, and I hope you enjoy the session. The topic, as you all know, it's office real estate at Cusp, hybrid versus back to work. A small correction from my side, I would say it is back to office, because we've all been working for the last 3 years, irrespective where we have been. And I think this shows that for decades, large enterprises have been adapting to business cycles, socio-political changes, like macroeconomic changes, and this is one of the responses that we have seen. 2020, there was 100% work from home. Everybody was predicting, excuse me, everybody was predicting death of office, but I think that's no longer the story. The story has changed. 2022 saw, bullishness back for people to come back to office. From the 15-20% in Q2, we actually reached about 50 to 60% in Q4. And there's a lot of conversations that are happening on hybrid. What is the definition of hybrid? What is going to be the workplace that we're going to see going forward? And I think this panel is probably best suited to enlighten us on that. Without wasting much time, I'm going to just jump into the first question. My first question is going to be directed to all of you so that we get to hear all your views. When it comes to return to work, there are three players that we are seeing today. One, who wants employees to come back fully, regularly to office. Second, who are okay with some flexibility and adopting to hybrid work. And third, where they're happy to let their employees work from home because they're comfortable, they don't want to lose their employees. Based on what you're hearing from your clients, your peers, your industry partners, what is your view? How is this going to be going forward? Juggy?
I think the last 3 years have been unprecedented. Honestly, if you look at the companies who have done well and survived this entire last 3 years of volatility and unprecedented stuff that we've seen in the global world, I think are the companies who actually put their heads down and continue to work. Not to say that people who are sitting at home and not contributed. I think, work from home was always a phenomenon many years ago. In fact, about 5-7 years ago, 10 years ago, people encouraged people to be at work from home. But I think what shape it's taken at this point of time, it's a very different perspective, given the fact that now that there's no COVID, there's no pandemic, nothing. But in the last 1.5 years, ever since people have, been vaccinated and all of that, you still see people still working out of home. I think that is more of a choice that the talented workforce have. The not so talented workforce and the people who understand that you need to work from physical workspaces are still come back to work. I was just joking with my learned friend who's the most educated here, Vivek Chandy. Vivek can choose to sit at home and work because he's paid by the hour to be listened and to be counseled. Unfortunately, people like us who are brick and mortar people who have to come physically and come to work every day, I don't think we have those luxuries. But on the serious note, I think it has given a new dimension to work. But I don't think, the world is going to see a mixed bag, if that is the right way to look at it. It will be a hybrid work where people will be pushed to come to work, but they will also be given a choice to work out of their own homes, maybe once or twice a week or something like that. But given the fact that even if you allow that, I don't see that taking any detrimental thing away from the India growth story. Because the India growth story is pretty robust. Office markets are back with a bang. We are almost at 2019 numbers. We had 49 million square feet of office absorption in 2019. I think this year, irrespective of what we saw, we'll come closer to, I think, a 42 million square feet number, which is, in my view, very good. Given the fact, yes, decision-making will slow down. Decision-making is slowing down only because people are not coming back to work and also the global headwinds that we are facing. But having said that, I think great time for all of us. And I think this workspace is definitely going to change. So I don't want to answer a long question, but my vote is that hybrid is the way to go. And you will see a much refreshed workplaces being offered by all the developers who are offering spaces to the clients.
Hi. I mean, we have been seeing this happening, and I think this is a topic which has been under discussion post-COVID. It's something which is talk of the town. that what's going to be there, it's going to be hybrid, it's going to be, work from home, or what kind of model are we deriving on. And I don't think, we have still reached a level where this discussion can have a conclusion, because everybody is developing. I think this is still in a very, very nascent stage where people are trying to understand, the corporates are trying to gauge more understanding over this, to come to a kind of a conclusion what is working. Most of the corporates are actually working on more on their customized way, what suits them, and are looking for solutions based around it. If you see the kind of a data which is throwing in 100%, if you talk about January 2022, it was, 40% of the corporates were actually working completely, through virtual, which is now come down to 10%. So it's a great jump if you really see from the, and a great indication to show that, it's surely not going to be 100% virtuals. Things are going to be definitely changing, from that angle, whether it's on the front of hybrid or the front of coming back to work. So I think those are important factors to be looked into. And, just on a lighter notes, Monday blues is very important to have those Monday blues. I mean, why do we have the blue? Because blue represents the color of, why not red, green? I mean, blue represents the color of depression, actually. And that's the reason why it's called Monday blues. It's good to have Monday blues. So why not? And I think those are few important factors which we need to consider, and we see a good demand coming from that direction.
Hello. Yeah. So Ramita, as Juggy rightly said, I mean, when this COVID was happened during 2019 and 2020 hits to India, initially no one was aware about what is going to happen, how the work culture is going to define, and after 3 months, when companies started working, and work from home culture was developed, so people enjoyed a lot in initial days. However, down the line, after a year or maybe 1.5 years, though in our country specifically, we live in a enclosed family structure, okay? So, people miss out the office cultures as well. I mean, collaboration with their colleagues and going outing with the colleagues and all. So that is something, which employees missing during the work from home culture, and that pulls them to back to the office spaces. That is something, one thing, okay? Other than that, our industry is specifically divided into two parts. One is the non-critical, one is the critical. In critical, the banking and finance, R&D centers, and then your manufacturing, which comes under a critical segment, wherein work from home or hybrid certainly not work, and that industry has to pull the people to the workplaces, and that's how. Other than that, non-critical like IT services and travel tourism, that something can be happen from work from home culture. So that is something possible. And other than that, as in India is a manufacturing hub, as I said. Okay, so we are developing in all the ways in the industry. Okay, on manufacturing, R&Ds as well as, and we keep attracting the people. So that is how. That's it.
Thanks, Ramita. Very pertinent question, and lot already said by Juggy, Manas, and Pravin. Couldn't agree more. But if you were to take another angle, and if I were to go back, who are we talking about? We are talking about the employees, the workers, right? They have to come back either to work, or they've been working for last 2-3 years, so come back to office. So really what we can look at human capital as one of the primary concerns, especially in our industry where 80% of the office take-up is done by the offshoring and services kind of industry that we're in. And the full focus, in my mind, the employers or the corporates have is focusing around appeasing the employees or the workers to bring them back to work or back to office. From a human capital perspective, I was reading very interesting research by a global HR consultant firm called Ferry. And while it read very basic, but there were 2-3 things that stood out, which I thought I'll bring out in my conversation. One was the advent of moving from what we call work-life balance to work-life integration. And just digressing what Juggy mentioned, one size doesn't fit all, right? So somebody like Vivek may not feel the need of going to work because he can work from home. And somebody like Juggy always, like me and Juggy, are projects guys. So we always feel the need of getting back there and dirtying a hand with brick and mortar. Having said that, I think it's about that employee over there who we need to understand wants to integrate his work-life balance. He may want to work in the morning, he may want to take a break in the afternoon, go pick his kids back from school, and he or she may want to continue the work in the evening. What's most important to corporates would be the output rather than work hours. The second thing is about productivity, and a lot has been said, a lot of research has been done over the last 2-3 years. And clearly, the companies are looking to identify productivity not only in the functions that they do, but also in the skill sets that the employee has, and whether they're able to manage providing the relevant output for which they've been hired, even from home. So these productivity tools, or as you may call it, the hybrid work models, will have to take into account this aspect of productivity at the foremost, primary consideration before having to adopt such policies. And of course, they'll be flexible about it. And we are seeing new research come out. Earlier, we said productivity was high, close to COVID. In between, it fell, and now we're trying to get new productivity models. And thirdly, I think what deserves a mention was this term I read about boomerang of sorts, where companies are looking now with the US recession and not so many jobs being available, inbounding those employees who may have left during good times, they switched jobs, or their greener pastures, they went out probably doing a startup and now wanting to come back. So these are some ways they can bring, the employees back. I just thought I'll take another angle because lots got said about real estate.
Thank you, Ramita. The question I think that we are trying to answer here is whether hybrid is here to stay. I think many compelling sort of arguments already put forth by my esteemed panelists. But the way I see the story sort of going is this, right? I mean, organizations had always known how to work in an offline mode. I mean, the shop floor, from an industrial revolution, where the word shop floor came, that I think has moved on even to the information age, where even today we continue to call the offices pretty much as a shop floor. So offline is something that organizations always knew to work. The pandemic sort of forced organizations to move into an online mode. This, of course, thanks to the technology facilitating it, in an overnight manner, the organizations were able to move into an online space. Now that the pandemic is receding, I think both organizations and employees have a choice. Earlier, I think there was no choice, right? I mean, coming to work was a necessity. I think suddenly both organizations and employees were faced with a choice. Now the employees obviously continue to prefer the online mode. I could wear my gym shorts, put on a jacket, take on calls, balance my work. I felt I was more in control of my own time. I could decide what I want to do in my day. Of course, especially in Bangalore, it avoided me 1 hour or 2 hours of commute every day, stuck in traffic. So obviously, the online mode suited very well for an employee. Now for an organization, what happened? I think the important piece was, a lot can be said about productivity, but I think from an organization perspective, I think what was really missing was the culture piece. The differentiation between many organizations is really the culture, in terms of how do I engage with my employees? How do I build teamwork? How do I create collaboration? So organizations felt a very, very dire need to sort of get everybody back into the office as soon as possible. So given these were the two options, really, I think hybrid is, I mean, really something that we can't not necessarily, we can't do away with. Organizations, of course, also had, I mean, we've heard some of the leaders talk about issues such as moonlighting, which affects confidentiality. So these were reasons that really people wanted to sort of bring everybody back to work as quickly as, as quickly as possible. So, so organization had an option of either risking employees, losing employees by forcing, saying, no, you have to come to work, or compromising on performance, continuing in the online mode. So this was really the choice. And most people, what they really did was struck up a compromise. Organizations and employees struck up a compromise, saying, hey, let me do one thing, we'll do 2-day work, 3-day, work from, online. I think that is really not the answer as well to the question in that sense. I think leaders or organizations need to be really smart about how we use this hybrid model. I mean, what jobs can sort of adapt itself to a hybrid model, what jobs can't adapt. I mean, Juggy spoke about brick and mortar, need physical presence, or we need face time with customers, as whereas maybe a legal profession or some of these guys can really work online and be as effective. So I think leaders need to really take that call, or organizations need to be able to take that call of what is, what it lends itself to an online mode and what doesn't lend itself to an online mode, and really create a balance. And I believe that whichever organization is able to crack this hybrid code in that sense, I think they'll be the new differentiator. These organizations really create a differentiation. I spoke about culture being a differentiation. I think hybrid culture will be a differentiation for organization going forward. So really the question, I think the topic also hybrid versus back to office or back to work, I think is not really the question. Hybrid is here to stay. How do we sort of really, that is the new work, if we may say so. So how do companies evolve that, I think is really the question that we should be answering.
So Ramita, maybe I'll look at it from a slightly different perspective. To my understanding, the largest offtake of office space in Bangalore, for instance, is the IT and ITES industry. And it is that industry that is subject to the most rigorous provisions to observe confidentiality and to ensure that there's no data breach. And when one works from home, one is using broadband from their home, or many of them are logging in from public spaces, from restaurants and from parks and other places. And there's a huge concern that when they are logging on to the company's infrastructure, there could be serious breaches of data, serious breaches of confidentiality. Now, every one of these IT and ITES companies, they of course get work from overseas, from the very large, US, Japanese, European companies. They are all subject to not just these provisions to ensure that there's no data breach and no breach of confidentiality, but if they cannot comply with those obligations, they are subject to the laws of the foreign countries where damages are in tens of millions of dollars. So if we see in the next few months that there are people who are going to be suing some of these companies because of breaches of some of these obligations, very soon it will be apparent that you can't be encouraging people to work from outside where they can compromise your infrastructure and your obligations to your clients. So I think it's a matter of time when IT, ITS companies are going to be clamping down and requiring more and more employees, or at least the employees doing critical functions, to actually come back to work. Thank you.
Yeah, I think very nicely put by all the panelists here. And a lot of good things that have come out, or different points of thought, points of views that have come out from this discussion. I'll just pick up on few for the next questions. And Juggy and Ravi, this is probably for you. Just looking at how the organizations are structured. In the last 3 years, we've seen organizations have grown by 30 to 50%. They've added to their workforce. Some of the employees have never come back to office, to take on Ravi's point on culture and employee engagement and productivity. Also now with them coming back, let's say flexi 2-3 days in a week, how is the quick fix solution to these real estate problems that the developers such as yourself who are supporting in the market today?
So if I get the question right, you're saying how do we plan for a space reduction or a space growth in our portfolio?
Yeah, because I think the biggest problem today is nobody knows what the answer is, right? It's a puzzle which is just shifting every day.
Yeah, and you know, yes, but from a developer standpoint, I think we are what we are because we have the ability to take risks. And I think developers' biggest strength today is that we crystal ball the positivity side, the positive side of things much more better than many other people. And that's the reason why we are successful in what we do. One thing is very clear, you know, and I always tell this to my team, for the last 15 years, when things were going brilliantly well for every sales or a leasing person, they never used to come back to us and say that, you know, I really worked it and things happened. Things happened because the general momentum of economy was pushing things. It was not that he was brilliant or I was brilliant or we were building a great product. So the momentum, when it slows down, that's the time when you really need forward thinkers, hard hustlers on the ground who actually can move things and decision making. And I think that's the basic genuinity with which our Indian population works. If you look at the resilience that we speak about as a country today, you look at what's happening to our neighbor China, and you look at, you know, other countries around us, and you look at how we have adapted to this new norm of living with COVID, fighting it out, putting our heads down, lost people, but still come back to work, physical work. I think the sheer resilience of the business community in India, the large diaspora of people in various other work assets and whatever they are doing today. And I think that's one positive factor of this whole COVID learning. So that's going to keep us going. So irrespective of what the fluctuation happens, you are always preparing for something, given that you need a 10 to 15% CAGR or 20% CAGR growth. And that's the positive side of things with which you typically plan. So I think given the fact that last year we were at about 36, 37 million office space, this year we are at 42, I can assure you next year we'll be at about maybe 45, 47 million square feet. So we have pretty much broken the shackles of conservativeness. Look at what's happening to our airports today. Suddenly the airports which were supposed to be the best places in the country now are there's no place to move. The people hustling, fighting going on, people missing their flights and all of that. Now this is just a simple case of how people have bounced back in the travel industry. Look at the hotels today. The same hotel was half empty 6 months ago. Today it's 150% overbooked. So this is the sheer resilience which we are seeing across the country, across borders, and across asset classes, across businesses. And I think that is what is keeping this country, you know, growing forward. So I think all said and done, great times. Yes, there will be a little bit of a bumpy ride. We're used to it. In at least last 30 years, we've seen at least 2 or 3 major bumps and you know, comebacks and all of that. But overall, if you take the last 100 years, we've had maybe 5 or 6 depression areas in 100 years. That's not a bad, you know, average to have. So I think we need to just keep positive and keep building and keep, you know, looking forward to, you know, getting the economy moving forward. So I think that's my take, positive side.
Juggy, very well put. I think I fully echo your views. And just to add, probably, you know, we've all, Juggy, you, me, and many stalwarts in the industry, we don't call ourselves stalwarts, but there are many others above us. We've all negotiated at least 3 cycles, you know, ever since I remember joining my career in real estate. It was 1996, and that was the first time we saw the big boom of 91 to 95 stabilizing, and then for 8 continuous years of the beginning of my career was the deepest, you know, slowdown we saw in real estate. And that's the time I thank God for whatever worked out that time with me individually and with my organization, that we saw superb growth. And it's not as though when there's a high tide and you're swimming in the beach in the ocean, and then you realize during low tide how many people are wearing clothes and how many don't even have clothes, right? So, but even then, from there, how you build up, because there are these opportunities, right? Even today, when we're talking about slowdowns or recessionary trends globally, of course, India is the outlier, but still there are companies who are laying off. The statistics show, and one of my IPC friends was speaking to me, that almost 5 to 7 million square feet in the city of Bangalore has seen surrendering of space of sorts. Now that's the kind of supply which has just come in the last 6 months, August onwards, I would say. And how do you kind of work towards a take-up of this kind of supply that comes, apart from the normal supply that's building up? So that's one of the huge challenges. So
hustle harder. Hustle harder every
Hustle harder. Look at new sectors. I mean, there are sectors like autos and others who are still doing well. Look at the new unicorns which are getting funded. 3 of them that they realized are from real estate, which is a big show for us. And many other such opportunities that we get. One other big thing, Ramita, is some of the bigger and more stronger developers over a period of time have been in multi-asset classes. And like Juggy was saying, so look at the hotels then 2 years ago and look at them now, right? So hotels, so at any given time, we've seen the asset classes, if Resi is doing well, offices just lagging behind, hotels are down, sometimes hotels come up. So I think that benefit of being in multi-asset classes, also sometimes being in multi-geographies within the micro-market locations of each city may work. But the risks are high for just one asset class if somebody were to be part of, but still hustle harder. That's the right word, yeah. You're getting into development as well, so you have anything to add?
Any views, yeah.
Well, I mean, a larger portfolio is residential while we aspire to be a commercial developer. No, I think one of the things is that we amongst developers keep talking that, look, we need to always keep talking positive, because we don't, then who does? So to keep the market up, we need to keep talking positive. But I think the good point is at this point of time, really, the market is genuinely good. It's not about us trying to prop up the market or saying it's good. I think residential sales are very, very buoyant. Luxury sales are very, very up. I mean, none of us imagined that coming from COVID, luxury sector is going to bounce back as well as it did. So, I mean, overall, I think the sentiments are very, very high. I think a couple of points that I want to sort of make on the commercial side really is that Ravi did talk about some of people sort of giving up leases, maybe scaling down on the requirement. I think a couple of things are going to happen. One is that as you start to see more and more people getting back to work, and we just spoke about why we believe that people have to get back to work. I mean, maybe not in a full 100%, but in some form of a hybrid manner, maybe 60, 70%. So more people than the current norm will start getting into the, coming back to work, and that means you require larger spaces. The second point is that the companies have grown. From 2019, the companies have added manpower. A lot of companies have added manpower, and now, although maybe for 2 years they didn't need the space because a lot of them were working from home, as and when these guys come back to office, the company need to provide for these guys, right? So I think definitely we will start seeing some amount of leases. There will be a blip. I don't know what the number is. Whether, like Juggy says, it's going to be 45, 48, but I think for sure it is going to go up. So I think that is another sense of optimism. And I think also how developers are responding to this, right? I mean, from a planning perspective, we may think that, number of desks required are lower. Now there are more hot desks. But I think what is happening is that the number of collaboration spaces are increasing in offices. You need to now provide for more video conferencing facilities, maybe meeting nooks, like telephone booths to take your calls, And I think adding more amenities, that is, now almost commercially, almost thinking like a residential developer. What other amenities can I add? Can I add a gym? Can I add a cafeteria? Can I add a restaurant? How do I sort of entice people to come to office? I think that is a big challenge. How do I make my office so attractive that without really, passing a circular or a mandate that you need to come to work, how do I get people to come back? Because people are also missing. I think employees also want to come back. I think the notion is, it's a wrong notion that nobody wants to come back. A lot of people actually want to come back. They want to have the social interaction, the networking, which is very, very key to growth. So I think these are very, very sort of essential. I think, so builders also thinking, how do I make my space more attractive? How do I bring green into my building? Can I create terraces? Can I create more open spaces? Of course, these are all part of FSI, so we charge, charge for the lease. But I think these will definitely add to the spaces. So I think, in general, I think it's good times. We all are very, very confident. I think the residential segment is doing well. I think we'll definitely, the commercial has always lagged the residential in that sense, and I think definitely the commercial segment also will pick up. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you. I think an interesting point did come up was about, in the previous conversation, was about, how moonlighting and data security is impacting the way, everything is being looked at. So, Vivek, probably to you this question. And you brought this point out. There are a lot of definitions that are there of what the enterprise is, and a lot of insurance and all of those related to these hybrid situations that could be applicable even from a work from home kind of an environment. Data security, like you brought up, is a very, very big ask. We've heard clients not winning contracts just because they are still showing employees working from home. So looking at this, how do you feel that the occupiers need to be prepared to address these challenges other than just bringing people back to work, or to office rather?
Well, I don't think it's the occupiers really have anything to do with it. I think it's really the employers.
The employees, that's what, the companies basically.
Yes, it's really the companies that need to, weigh the benefits of, possibly losing 10% of their people because they insist on people coming back to work against the, the threat of losing clients, losing orders because, they can't keep the client's data safe, and there's definitely going to be breach of confidentiality. So I think it's for the employers to take that call, and I believe, in the industry that I am in, that it's a matter of time before the employers start getting tough and requiring most of their employees to start coming back. Now, someone who's doing a call center job, he can take it from anywhere he wants because he's picking up the phone and saying, "You want a loan?" But someone who's doing something more critical will definitely have to start coming back to work. Especially because now there's no real compelling reason why they shouldn't be working from the office. As far as moonlighting is concerned, I'm very clear that, no one should be taking 2 jobs at the same time and, pretending that they've only got 1 job because that's really cheating. And honestly, I feel bad because many people may be doing it and feeling it's a way of supplementing their income. But, I think, speaking for myself, if someone in my office were trying to do that, I'd be very upset. I'd prefer it if he came and he or she came and said, "You need to pay me more." But if I find that someone is, working for a competitor, that's a definite no-no. So that's really my take. Thank you.
Thanks, Vivek. Pravin, I think you had some thoughts on moonlighting as well, and probably it's a good time to share that.
Yeah, so rightly said by Vivek that the moonlighting is a real cause of concern when people working in the hybrid model or people working in the work from home model. So people are accepting the double employments wherein it's a high possibility of breach of data, and that is something a threat to the employer and the companies. Okay, so that's something to mitigate those people has to back to offices for the work. That is something need to be focused, and for that rather than the hybrid model, my opinion is that employer has to build a new dynamics office places which contains the collaborative spaces, then your agile spaces, and that's how something employer can pull the right talent, and the attrition rate will be increased, and even though the existing talent also will be retained quite nicely. So nowadays the change in dynamics in terms of the designing plays a big role, whereas as Juggy rightly said in his last discussion a minute back, that there might be a possibility that the demand will be increased from 36 million square feet to 45 million square feet. The one of the big reason which I feel, other than the manpower increment, other than the other things, why the companies are increasing their portfolio by 40% or 50%, maybe double the portfolio, it is just because of the change in dynamics of the design and the modern age fit outs. That is something which is very, very important. And that is the reason why the occupiers who are sitting out of 10,000 square feet might be looking for 15,000 square feet, wherein initially the design was per se 60 square feet per person. Now it changes to 100 and 125 square feet per person. That is something.
Thanks, Pravin. Since we spoke about agility in terms of workplace design, I think one of the major components now we are hearing about is flex and managed offices. So my question to you, Manas, is that flex is becoming a major component of real estate story for a lot of occupiers. So, and there are a lot of players also in the market today. So how do you think flex space operators are differentiating their products so that to avoid that it becoming a commodity and it's more of a differentiated offering?
I think it's a very good question, and it's something which all flex operators are actually strongly working upon. And just to put little bit on a macro level, the market being a 50 million on a tier 1 city with an absorption, a strong absorption. ITITS taking up 30-35% of that entire space. Today, flex is at an average of around 15%, which 3 years back was around 8%. So you're seeing a strong momentum coming from the flex guys, as a taker. Seeing this and the way the 2022 has gone by, we strongly see that another, 2 or 3 years down the line, we will be the largest consumers of the commercial office spaces, and we want to beat that ITTAS numbers. Now, to achieve that, it's very important we don't become a commodity, and we are following, some, making a lot of things which are required to make this possible. Whether it comes from the perspective of, systems like AI-driven designs to AI-driven operations. We are strongly working towards, on the front of certifications, compliances, which needs to come in from, to have major clients in place when it comes down there. It's all about, customer satisfaction, customer delight, extremely important criterias. I think, our industry doesn't get close at the design stage. It's very important that post-design, our real merit starts with the client. So, it's very important that we service the clients well. This market is going to be driven by the players who are very strong on the services to cater the clients and, making sure they are good. Even tomorrow, the IBCs, would like to work with the ones who are strong on those verticals. So I think that's some of the important factors which all the flex guys are strongly working upon, because we see next 2 years are going to be very, very, too busy for us. So I've been telling my team, be ready, because a lot of work is coming in from that perspective. But yes, a very strong times and very bullish about it from that angle.
Yeah, and to use Juggy's words, I think hustle. Since
as long as you don't hustle with the landlords for more rent-free, because I could see, if you look at, and there's something in that industry is, which I was part of initially when we started WeWork in India. Our target was that don't do a deal if the landlord doesn't give you TI and 10 months rent-free. That was when I was at this side. But on this side, I can assure you, today's scenario is very different because the model has changed. Those days, you were filling up spaces based on a occupier demand that was self-driven. Then came the enterprise business. With the enterprise business, your risk is much less. So if your risk is much less, you cannot pass your risk to the developer. So I think that is a big gap that is happening between push and pull between the co-working players and the developers, because developers don't see value. If we are going to do a deal with you with a 6 or 9 month rent-free, it doesn't work at all. So I think that's the game that will slowly alter, or I predict that fewer and fewer players will be left doing co-working as the model goes by, because what will happen is people will get the capex, companies will start pumping in money. I just met a client in the morning, they said that acquiring a 100,000 workforce company in India, and the things are going to change the moment there's capex pumped into the country. Because let me tell you one thing, in India, you can easily hire a great resource who's ready to work long hours, work even Saturday, Sundays, respond to your WhatsApp messages even at 2 in the morning at 75,000 rupees. In the US, you can't even hire somebody at $75,000 for that kind of quality. So it's no more that people are coming to India just for the cost factor. Yes, it was a very important, but we've gone up way ahead in the value chain. So the quality of work that happens, and Vivek will second that, because his clients today are bringing in work which was never there in India 10, 15 years ago, the kind of work that is coming to India. So I think with the price factor, we also have great quality of talent that fills up that work at a fraction of the cost, which is uncomparable to the world. Sorry, I'm talking like Ministry of Government of India.
So I think if Juggy was wearing a different hat and he was again the CEO of WeWork, he'd be saying exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and I could just see a negotiation session happening right on the table.
I know, I'm still coming for the 10 months.
I think with Flex, there is another interesting piece that we've been seeing, which is tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, where there is a lot of interest that is coming up. I know there are developers who are looking at the environment, looking at the fundamentals of these tier 2, tier 3 cities, are not so eager to enter. But we've seen one is Flex, and second is from an occupier demand. That demand is increasing because of return to home. A lot of people have been working from there. So given that, Manas, first your thoughts, and Vivek, then your thoughts more from the larger environment point of view.
So basically, it's important from that perspective, that people are really coming back, and, they are, things which are moving in that direction. But when it comes down to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, we see the demand is very strong. It's very robust. There are multiple reasons which are moving towards it. One is the startups. If you see, there are 61,000 startups, out of which 45% are from tier 2, tier 3, which represents. So if we are talking that strong numbers of employment coming in from those places, it gives a strong belt from that angle. Post-COVID, a new vertical opened up is, guys who have gone there and still sitting there, and the companies wants to open up office spaces for them. So that's another vertical which has moved the tier 2 and tier 3 demands from that perspective. But to cater those kind of demands and that to grow, it's very important that few things are taken care from the government side. One is the infrastructure growth, where we see, at least 25,000 crores commitment coming from the government for the infrastructure developments. Second is the connectivity, which is, the airport, transport, metros, whatever needs to be done. And third is the communication, which is basically yours 5Gs has to be there, as an availability. And that, if coming in, you will see a lot of spillover also happening from the tier 1 to the tier 2 because of also the real estate factor which is coming in. So I think it's in great build, and we are strongly believe that market is going to be always a good market in the future too.
No, I think the present government is certainly giving a push to development of infrastructure. They're developing the railways, even things like railway stations. So I think it's a matter of time before there are a lot of developments in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And if that happens, firstly, the real estate will be a lot cheaper. People will need to pay the same ITES folks a lot less, because today, I'm assuming Juggy will know better, but 30% of someone's salary probably goes on what they pay for their rent. So that will probably come down to 5% or 10%, or they'll probably stay in their own home and be able to work from them. So I think, the IT companies will actually be able to employ people at much lower prices if they actually start moving to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. But as rightly said, those cities need to have the infrastructure. And once that happens, it will be very interesting to see. I'm sure all the developers here will probably start moving there.
Yeah, I think the current response is probably not so positive, and I've heard Juggy in a previous session where he said, cost of real estate, especially the construction cost, is the same irrespective of which market you go in, but the returns are not commensurate to that. So how do we address that?
So, for the longest time, I think there are a lot of senior people here. We've been hearing Mysore, Mysore, Mysore. For maybe 10 years, we are hearing those stories. But now they're building that infrastructure. Once the infrastructure comes in, yes, there will be definitely a spike along that corridor. But now you look at Pune. If you drive from Bombay to Pune today, there will be about a 20-minute journey where you don't see development. Apart from that, throughout the 2 hours drive time, you're only seeing development on all sides. So definitely roads are the artery to an infrastructure is. But having said that, the tier 2, tier 3 cities, that story hasn't developed for the simple reason people come to this city for jobs, for opportunities. 10 years ago, our population was 7.5 million. Today, we are 15 million people in Bangalore. You can't replace that big, starry-eyed, glitzy, glamour, big city life that people want in terms of opportunities. So I think that's, and for reasons, 5 years ago, there was a big plan about smart city and 200 cities being developed. Nothing happened. It's just empty, stuff like that. But having said that, I think the only closest city I would say, which 10 years ago was a tier 2 city, is Pune. Is today almost like a tier 1 city. Yeah. Absorption of close to 6.5 million this year. So if you compare 42 million versus 6.5 million, it's a massive, almost 20% of Indian offices controlled in Pune market.
And this year probably Pune will overtake Mumbai from an absorption
naturally,
point
with 3,000 developers in one city, you'll overtake any city. But I think to Pune's pride, I think they've really done well, but where they are really faltering is they don't have public infrastructure. So Pune as a city is another Bangalore. It's pretty much going that way unless metro becomes a reality.
Yeah.
So.
And also, let's not forget, Pune started its traction thanks to its proximity to Mumbai as a tier 1. But having said that, I think the tier 2, 3 cities will always remain a ratio of what the tier 1 cities will be. And thanks to this reverse migration concept taking steam post-COVID, we don't know how far it will last, because eventually, we all, human beings are all driven by opportunities, and that's where the reverse migration may stop one day and then come back to bigger cities.
Yes, please.
I just want to add one point here that, companies go where talent is, so it's while, even the government is trying very hard to say, look beyond Bangalore and things like that. It's not very easy. So the only point I want to make is that I want to warn people about coming up with a permanent solution, for a temporary situation.
Yeah.
A simple story that I want to give is really a friend of mine who's running a very successful restaurant. When COVID happened, he saw the takeaways were so booming, he shut his restaurant and said, I'll only do takeaway. Now things have changed. People want to go back to the restaurant. People don't want to sit at home and dine all the time. So I think the mistake we tend to make is that, we probably come up with a permanent solution, which is saying, tier 2 is the next big thing.
Yeah.
And my sense is that, and I may be wrong, that in the cost structure of many of these large companies, the real estate cost may not be that significant. Maybe Juggy has a better hold on the number, or Ravi has a better hold on the number. But my sense is that it's not a very significant, cost in their overall cost structure. And it would be largely more the salaries, the engagement that they do with the employees. So, that's, one point that I want to
You hit the nail on the head. Actually, if you look at where Whitefield started, Whitefield in Bangalore, the leasing started when ITPL came up, and then all the CEOs who wanted to be in ITPL lived in ITPL. So I think the leaders also decide where their flock follows. So, the leader who is living in Whitefield, he's not going to take an office in Outer Ring Road or somewhere in CBD, because they want proximity. But there are some leaders who sacrifice. I know one leader I won't name, but he travels 3.5 hours every day, one way, to work just because his employees and his company needs to be at a cost-effective location, and he wants to live somewhere else. So there are people, but there are. So I think that tier 2 story is also like that, because the leaders want to be in bigger cities, travel out, in and out, easy, and all of that. So I think.
I think, and one of the things which probably focus is required, we spoke a lot about the physical infrastructure. There's also a lot of social infrastructure that is required. And to your point, where the talent availability is there, and to build that talent, I mean, why Bangalore, why Pune? It was because you've got institutions who have been churning out good quality talent. There is good schools available for people and their children. Until that probably improves, yeah, that's what I said. So tier 2, tier 3 schools need to really up their game for, that focus to shift. And I'm not seeing that right now. So fingers crossed, and to your point, it should not be a long-term solution to a short-term problem. But just coming back to you, Ravindra, Bangalore is the largest commercial office and also the largest technology market. Consequently, the maximum impact of work from home has been in Bangalore because technology employees can work from home more easily. So whether we talk about Uberization of real estate or introducing modern amenities, it's likely to be happening first in Bangalore before it hits any of the other cities. So how is real estate in the city innovating on workplace as a service that helps occupier attract and retain this talent?
I did touch upon a little bit in my earlier,
Yes.
When I was speaking a little while ago about how developers are almost thinking of it like a residential, space. What are the sort of amenities that we push in? And things like, we spoke about gyms and cafeterias, even daycares, creches. These have become essential now. Earlier it would be a good to have. Now I think it's become very, very essential that, and many of these are check boxes now when employers sort of really look for some of these spaces. I think the market will evolve. Developers like Juggy mentioned, we're risk takers. We tend to think a little bit ahead. And I think there will be a certain amount, people will definitely respond to this sort of a situation. Co-working has been a new vertical that's come forward. I think that'll be interesting to see. My sense is that it'll move away from being a more sort of a capital intensive or real estate heavy business to more sort of a service oriented business. I think they'll really layer that services angle that you're talking about. And the developers will continue to build their own business. Today you see a lot of developers having co-working as one of their, maybe an extension. I feel that going forward that there'll be a clear distinction between these two businesses, and they've evolved successfully, if I may say so, as independent businesses. Somebody who's building, even earlier, real estate would be from landowner to broker to developer. Everybody was real estate, right? So today, there's so much specialization. There is a retail developer, there is a residential developer, there's a commercial developer, landowners are a different breed, IPCs are a very different breed. Earlier everyone thought everyone could do everything. I think that has changed. I think the market will evolve. And the good news is that, you mentioned Bangalore being the largest absorber of, commercial real estate. I think that will continue. And I think, one of the points that we maybe didn't touch upon is the whole global recession that we're all thinking about, And I think that in the entire gloomy sort of an environment, I think India really stands out. And if India stands out, I think the Bangalore story is very, very, solid. For reasons we just spoke about, the talent, the social infrastructure, the cosmopolitan environment, the glitz and glamour of a big city, So I think Bangalore has a lot to gain from, this whole thing. And talking to people, I hear that from a recession, a lot of people are looking to sort of really get more work into India now, because it's cheaper base. 75,000 rupees salary as against $75,000 salary. So I think the story is good, and I think we're definitely for the next, as somebody said, I think we're in a bull run for the next decade from a real estate perspective. And I think we all are really fingers crossed, hoping that this really comes true.
Great. Thank you. I think we are almost out of time. I would like to open up for questions if there are any. Any questions? Can we have the mic there, please?
I heard 2 sessions since afternoon, very good sound bites. But I'd like to focus your attention on the fact that Bangalore's water supply comes from Mysore. And if the requirement of Bangalore for water is about 19 liters, 12 liters come from Mysore, and the balance is from groundwater. And groundwater is depleting at a very rapid pace. We're drawing water from depths of 800 to 1800 feet. And yet, the water that we have, the fresh water that we have, we are using it very lackadaisically. We still don't have a concept of a dual piping system in most of our establishments, and we use A category water for a C category need. So keeping this as a backdrop, I think Bangalore has exceeded its carrying capacity, and all the new development which is coming up is completely based on groundwater, and that's not sustainable unless we kind of have very ambitious strategies for reducing water consumption and replenishing groundwater. Any comments on that, please?
I don't have any specific comment to that. However, I think these are points or issues which fall part of the social impact, and within that framework, we are, as business heads, have been working closely with environmentalists and some of the others. As I speak, water conservation is one of the primary concerns when it comes to design aspects, which we are focusing on with our projects team. Likewise, energy as an area of efficiency is an equally, primary source of concern and improvement, I should say, given the ESG needs of a lot of occupiers or our clients who come to occupy these buildings. So, like I said, I may not be an expert in the groundwater or table water kind of space here, and while I may have just relocated to Bangalore just 3 months back, but I do have a view which I think our technical teams are taking towards these improvements in the design stages of our development here.
No, I just want to add that as a corporate social responsibility, most, at least the serious developers, have it in them to ensure that the ESG governance in terms of whatever you're doing, environment, sustainability, governance, corporate governance, and more importantly, the environment. I think at least the seasoned players have realized that with the green initiative that the government is pushing on, green power, green loans, everything to do with LEED and certification and all of that, I think it's going to become a matter of fact that you'll have to have your sustainability goals measured at every stage of your development. So be it water, be it the air quality that we are now pounded with post-COVID, be it the overall, environment and the kind of stuff that we are building in with, materials that are much more conducive to environment sustainability. I think it's one part of the business that every seasoned player today and every serious player has it in his book as a tick mark that you have to do in every project. So I think whether it's water or green energy or environment sustainability, it's a given today if you want to be serious in our business.
Also, just to add to Juggy, I think you may want to look up, a company called We Got, and that is now being, they're part of our Brigade Accelerator program, and I attended a very good presentation by them. I'll be happy to share more offline if you can, meet me. And the kind of ability of technology that this company is bringing, and many of the developers in India are already using their services on water conservation. I'm not sure whether they have equal technology for groundwater in terms of how to make use of that or preserve that, or rather enhance it. But it's a good, interesting presentation I saw. I'll be happy to connect you with them as well.
I might just add that about 5 years ago, I represented a French company that did a survey of the entire Bangalore, metropolitan area, and they believed that there was more than enough water available to serve the entire population of Bangalore for the next 20 years. But they believed that it had to be conserved and used properly, and like you rightly said, used for the right purposes. And they actually made a presentation to the government of Karnataka saying that they would take care of everything and ensure that there was sufficient water. I think the cost was a little high, so the government of Karnataka didn't accept that proposal. But I believe that if things get worse, the government may have no option but to, work with a provider like them.
Thank you. Any other questions? I know just one more question. Last question.
Good afternoon, esteemed panelists. So my question is about, now the topic is hybrid versus back to work. Now when people were working from home, they had some time off during the day to manage their stress levels, might be take a power nap or something like that. And like our corporate offices in Bangalore have always been trendsetters of providing upgraded hospitality services. How innovative are great companies like you are looking at providing certain concepts in managing mental like health awarenesses, or for example, like Japan has a policy where during the day employees can take a half an hour or 1 hour time off for a power nap or something. So will we see builders bringing sleeping pods in their commercial spaces or something like that?
I'll just quickly take, Ravi did mention a very important point that post-pandemic, employees don't want to come to old spaces. They want to come to new and fresher spaces. And I think the concept has to change from the fact that where you start looking at a landlord and a end user relationship, a lessor or lessee relationship, to a hotelized occupier guest kind of experience. And I think many developers are today trying to look at how we can hotelize our offering. So that's one of, in fact, that's one of the mantras that when I joined Prestige, was very clear that we want to hotelize our offerings. And with that, we're even building our own brand of, you see in US airports, you have this power massage at the airport, you can bend and they give you a 10-minute power. You go to that level to ensure that people get excited to come to work. So like Ravi's point was that you have to offer people an experience that is more than just workplace related. Buy a bread from a big basket kind of a kiosk to ensure that you get a power nap, or maybe do a pod where you can go and listen to music. A lot of stuff is happening. So, and I think more and more people who are serious about this game, they will keep doing it, because you need to keep 3-4% of your total gross leasable area for all this kind of, to ensure that your 95-96% gets leased because of this 3-4%.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to Juggy, I think there are clearly some new, innovative, or shall I say, newfound amenities that probably weren't part of our office developments before. We always had a gym, we always had a creche, we always had, F&B services, and now it's about more healthier food. Now it's about more physical and mental wellness. It's about providing, amenities such as yoga rooms, meditation centers, and like you pointed out, the Japanese equipments where you could take a break and go and take a, power nap in a undisturbed environment. So I agree with Juggy. The serious players will come out with many such solutions going forward. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Just summing up the discussion today, hybrid is here to stay. It will keep evolving as the environment around us evolves. Work in the office will be part of this hybrid story. It's not going to disappear completely, and it's not going to become completely work from home or completely work online like all my esteemed panelists were discussing. Flex will be an important part. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities is something again that we need to watch out for. It may be a short-term play, but we need to see how to make it a long-term play, where there has to be investment in infrastructure, and also both on the physical as well as on the social side, as also on building talent in these smaller locations. And at the end of the day, India is a resilient country. We will respond to whatever challenges that are thrown at us. Next 10 years is for India. So look forward to the Indian decade coming forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Can we give them a huge round of applause, please? I thought they captivated us with their knowledge and experience that they shared with us. Thank you. I would request you to kindly stay on stage. And I would like to invite Jagdish Balram, Head of Net Zero Consulting Division at the Groundwater Company, to present a token of appreciation to all the panelists, please. Can we give it out for Jagdish Balram, please? Jagdish, we have all the time in the world. Yeah. Thank you, Jagdish. Thank you. Can we all put our hands together for the panelists, please? Come on. Congratulations and thank you. तालियां बजती रहनी चाहिए. Come on. And yes, one more time. Let's give it out. May I request all of you to kindly come together for a photo op, please. Excellent. Yeah, all of you, if you could join in for a photo op, we would be extremely grateful. Thank you for being brilliant and for helping us all become brilliant as well.